What's up, guys? Had a thought today. Just did some writing on it. It's not fully cooked yet, but I think it's coming out anyways. And the thought is that I think you might not communicate because you don't respect yourself enough. And I'm probably speaking mostly from personal experience. Self-respect is something that I've definitely been working on. Is as confident as I may seem when I go and do things, because I do a lot of things that people think are pretty strange or pretty weird or unconventional, I guess is the best way to put it. I just face the possible discomfort of doing so. In fact, I'm thinking very much about doing something to really challenge my comfort zone. In line with the videos and in line with writing, I'd like to do a communication workshop. And in order to do the first one, instead of broadcasting it on internet or social media or anything like that, I think I'm actually going to manually try to find people to join the workshop. And so I'm planning to go to a couple busy places here around the city I live in and probably hand out cards or flyers or something and this is something I've never done before. I'm thinking back to this class I took about change management, I believe is what it was. I don't remember specifically what it was, but I remember just not knowing how to do anything. It was the first time I had to it was a graduate level course I think that I took in my undergrad, and it was the first time that really I needed to challenge myself and come up and do a project that interacted with other people and required all these things that I didn't know how to do. And I kind of faked it through that class. I didn't really press my comfort zone and I didn't really learn. And that's a pretty shitty outcome, I think. But now, 15 years later, 20 years later, however long it is, thinking about these things, I have all these ideas, much more creative and much more willing and open to embrace this discomfort. And the idea of doing this, well, it seems incredibly uncomfortable. I think about the worst thing that could happen, right? And I think often we'll get stuck there. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen? But a lot of the worst things that could happen are like, so what? Like, then I'll just try something else. Or then I'll just shake it off. Like, if somebody's rejects me or somebody's rude about it or so on and so forth. Like all these different things you could think about, I don't think any of them are that serious and there's no actual repercussions, right? I'm still going to be living and breathing afterwards. And sometimes what I think we fail to do is think about like, what's the best thing that could happen? You know, maybe it goes off without a hitch, maybe get a full workshop the first time that I do it. Maybe nobody takes anything and I try again. And ultimately, it's an exciting opportunity to learn more about people, more about communicating in a realm that I've never done it before. It also just seems kind of fun to do in a really crazy way because of that. Because I think the person that I want to be would know what it's like to do that. Will have braved different things to get to a better place. And so that's one of the actions that I need to take. And I think about, relative to how this started, the self-respect and the value we place on our own thoughts and feelings, on your own thoughts and feelings, or my own thoughts and feelings, is the idea of saying the thing or asking the question. I think a lot of times we won't say the thing or ask the question for fear of the reaction that we might receive from the other person, or for fear of looking dumb or being embarrassed. And really, I think this is just a very restrictive thought that holds us back. It's a prison that you create for yourself by not saying the thing or asking the question. Now, I'm not arguing that you do this with no regard for the other party. I think it's important to consider your audience and what's important to them and what they might be sensitive to. I don't think you should operate in the world with no regard for others. That isn't the argument, but you should have regard for yourself as well. If you're anything like me, I would say that's been the problem. You may over-regard others and under-regard yourself. It is something that I've been working on, and if you feel like sometimes you don't have a voice, or sometimes you're not seen, or sometimes you're not understood, then say the thing and ask the question. Show people who you are and what you know. And maybe they won't like it, but those aren't the people anyways then. Your people are out there, and you can be free, but freedom comes at a price. And that price is your discomfort. Living in a vacuum, not saying your thoughts, not saying your feelings, not asking your questions, you limit your ability to grow and learn. Sure, you might be wrong, and that's okay, but then you have an opportunity to be right. And the more often you speak these things into the world and you get to challenge your own ideas and your own thoughts and your own feelings, the more you get to understand yourself, the more you get to understand, hey, maybe this isn't the right way to think about it. Maybe there's a more useful way. Maybe there's a better way to think about it. Asking questions eliminates your ignorance, and you can stop fumbling through whatever it is that you're challenged by. I think it's interesting to potentially live with ignorance your whole life versus just facing that one true moment of ignorance when you have to ask a question. That's all you're doing is eliminating your ignorance. Some of this is perspective changes, right? So we could say, what is the worst thing that can happen? Or we could flip it, what's the best outcome I could get? How much do I regard others versus how much do I regard myself? And maybe that needs to change. What are the reactions of others? Or what can I stand to gain? What can I stand to learn from putting my thoughts and feelings and asking the questions out? So the point of this video is just to urge you to hold yourself in a little bit higher regard and say the thing or ask the question. It'll all work out in the end. You can't lose if you don't quit.